Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Business Growth Pod. I'm your host, Alan Draper. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to introduce you to Bryan Clayton. Bryan is the CEO and co-founder of an app called GreenPal, which connects homeowners with local lawn care professionals. Check this out. GreenPal has over 100,000 active users, which complete thousands of transactions a day. So very excited to chat with Bryan about his journey and what has led him to the software industry. So welcome to the show, Bryan. Glad to have you.
Alan, thanks for having me on your show. It's great to be here.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell me a little bit about, so you didn't start with being in the tech business. You actually owned a landscaping company. Is that right?
Yeah. I had to learn the hard way the differences between a traditional blue collar business and a tech company when I started GreenPal. But I got my start in the landscaping business. I started mowing grass in high school as a way to make extra money, and stuck with my little lawn mowing business all through high school, all through college. And when I graduated college, I had to make a decision. Was I going to get a regular job or stick with this landscaping company I had? I didn't really want to be a lawn guy my whole life, but I thought this could be my lane. This could be the business ownership, could be the thing that helps me do things in life that I never would otherwise do. And I made a little business plan, and over a 15-year period of time, built one of the larger landscaping businesses in the state of Tennessee where I live, eventually getting that business over $10 million a year in revenue, 150 employees. And then in 2013, the company was acquired by a national organization. And so after that, I took some time off, learned a lot about myself, learned that I was wired to love owning a business, to be in the game. I needed to have a project of some kind. So I thought, well, somebody's going to build an app that works like Uber, but for lawn mowing services. It might as well be me. And it was kind of naivete as an asset. I didn't know how hard it was going to be. I didn't know I didn't know what I didn't know. And, but I didn't let that stop me. Recruited 2 co-founders and had to evolve into a tech entrepreneur. That took about 3 years. And so now here I am 10 years later. GreenPal is a 10-year overnight success, nationwide in the United States, doing $30 million a year in revenue.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, that's funny that you say a couple of things. One, that, you had this asset of being naive. A lot of times I say, I'm thankful I didn't know what it was going to take to start a business, because if I did, I'm scared that I wouldn't have started it.
Yeah, it's so true.
Why is that, man? I think it's great that, because everyone tries to get in a position before they start a business. They want to know everything already, right? But sometimes it's good not to know everything.
I think a couple of reasons. One, like every movie you've ever watched about entrepreneurship, the part where they actually build the business is like set to the background of like a music montage. Like no movie about what it's actually like to build a business would be one that you would want to watch. It's just too boring, too hard, it's just a slog. And it's like, so it's not glamorized, like it's not glorified. You don't see it. And so the only way to actually know what it's like to start a business from scratch, get your first 100K in revenue, is to actually do it. And it doesn't matter how hard somebody tells you it is. You just don't really understand that until you get in there and roll up your sleeves and experience it firsthand. And then you start to realize, wow, this is really tough. And it's not for everybody. There has to be something inside. Like for me, there was like a chip on my shoulder. I just wanted to prove to myself that I could do it both times. And that's what got me through those early hard years. And I started the second business thinking, like when I sold the first company, I was like, whew, that was really tough. 150 employees, 90 trucks going out every day. Getting the business acquired was really hard. I was like, whoa, that was really, really hard. I don't ever want to do anything that hard again. I want to start a software business because that will be easier.
Right.
and boy, what a stupid thought. The software business was 10 times harder. It was like a level up, like order of magnitude harder. And I think it was because like you're inventing something brand new from scratch that does not exist. That's a lot harder than running a traditional like known business model.
Yeah. So I actually we're alpha testing a software that I've partnered with some guys to develop, and we're learning some of those same things. Now, part of it's we're developing this for companies that I own to help them become more efficient, things like that. But it's different. And I think sometimes when we're making business decisions, especially about what to pursue, sometimes we think different is better. And I know entrepreneurs, we have this shiny object syndrome where it's like,
Yeah.
whatever is different than what we're doing is better and it's more attractive, and we kind of lose the concept of what we're trying to do. Tell me, why didn't you, as opposed when you had that exit, why didn't you stay closer to landscaping? What was it that drew you to get into the technology industry? Was it the idea? Because sometimes that happens. Somebody has a really good idea and they're like, hey, this is related to the experience that I have, but it's different. Or was it something else? What drew you to develop this app?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you bring up a couple really good points. Different is not always necessarily better. And you're talking about developing your own product for your own companies, your own use. I think when you're trying to bring a new software product to market, being your own customer for a period of time can like increase your chances of success. And that gets lost a lot. Particularly in like marketplaces, and people ask me all the time, like, how do I recruit supply and how do I market to demand? It's like, well, maybe you should just be the supply for a while. Maybe you should be your own customer for a while. So I think that's super smart. For me, why was I crazy enough to like completely switch gears from going from a blue collar entrepreneur to a tech entrepreneur? One was naivete. Two, I saw the ability for software to impact more people and to have more reach and to be able to scale to something bigger than what I was accustomed to building. Like I built one of the larger landscaping businesses in my marketplace, but like I had hit a ceiling. Like unless I was going to take it to multiple cities, which is really, really tough in that industry. There was no way I could like scale it beyond where I already built it. And so for me, like the reason I sold the business was my personal growth had kind of hit a plateau. I spent 15 years building it from scratch and I'd kind of seen everything you could see in the business. And it got to a point where a lot of the challenges were redundant. And I think in business, one of the best things about it, whether you're running a small, like $200,000 a year business or you're running a big $200 million a year business, you should be evolving into a whole new person every 3 or 4 years as a founder, as an entrepreneur, because as the business grows, you grow with it. And if the business stops growing, then you stop growing. And that's what happened to me in that first business, was that I kind of hit like I guess a ceiling in terms of how big I could grow it. And I just had a desire to move on to something else. And I thought, well, this, Social Network had just come out, watched that movie, and that seemed cool to me. Like the whole allure of the startup life, like it was alluring. I thought, hell, why can't I do that? And that naivete is what drew me into it. And then after I got into it, I just saw like how hard it was. And our early adopting customers told us everywhere that our product sucked, but they never told us they didn't want it. Like They never told us they didn't need it. And so like that validation kept me on this path of like, if I did this for 10 years, hell, I spent 15 years in the last one. If I spend 15 years on this one, I can build a big business. And that was my mentality then, still is today. We're doing close to 30 million a year in revenue. We want to get to 100 million. And so it's very much still day one. And that's the cool thing about a software business, is that it can scale to something really big.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you talk about this long-term perspective, which a lot of people don't necessarily have. I think entrepreneurs, the types of personalities that are drawn to entrepreneurship are so vast that people have different reasons for starting a business, right? Some people just don't want to work for anybody. Some people want to control their own schedule. Some people want to work 2 days a week. Some people want to be, want to control how much money they make. Some people want to work in an industry where, I had a guest last week, and he started a business just to figure out what he wanted to do in life, started business in an industry he didn't have much experience with. And it's interesting because right now you see a lot of, hey, start a business, you're wealthy overnight, right? And there's not an entrepreneur that will tell you that that's actually the case. It's the entrepreneurs that have this 10, 15, 20, 30-year vision of where they want to take the company and what they want to do, which when you have that type of vision, that type of longevity in what you're doing, it's not, I think you really hone in on the reasons why you're doing it, because it's not, when it's something that takes a long time to do, if it's something that's like a fly-by-night business, I can do it really quickly and then be done with it. You don't have to center your reasoning and your why for doing it. But if you're like, hey, I'm going to dedicate it over a decade of my life to this, then all of those false reasons kind of fall away. And this is especially true for people that start multiple businesses, people that, get through that startup phase like you did and say, hey, I want more of that, because the startup phase, it's something that I'm personally addicted to. I love startups. I love a little bit of the unknown and just figuring things out. But a lot of people, they can't wait to get out of that phase and that cycle. And so what is it about kind of your journey, and especially with starting this second business in a completely different industry, although there's some correlation there, what is it with this experience that you would do differently on your third startup, kind of with these combined experiences?
Yeah, that's a really good question. For me, I made a promise to myself that no matter what, I'm always going to be working on my best idea, and by default. So like, that's the default. And so no matter what, I'm getting out of bed and I'm going to go pour my soul into the best idea I have at that time. Fortunately, I'm not terribly creative and I don't have a whole lot of good ideas. I've had one good idea in the last 10 years, and that's push a button, somebody comes and mows your yard for you. And that's it. And so like, for the first 5 years growing this business were really, really, really tough. In fact, I didn't get a paycheck until like year 4. But I had made a promise to myself that I was going to work on my best idea. So I don't like the startup phase. In fact, I hate it. It's really, really hard. But by default, I was going to do whatever to get through it. I think every business has like three phases. Like there's the startup phase, and then there's the grow up, and then there's the scale up. And I've got a proven track record in the first two, and I'm trying to get to the scale up phase on the second one. And so I guess if I had to like do them both all over again, knowing everything that I know now, it would be really trying to figure out the nuance between delegating too soon and delegating too late. Everybody always says, delegate, delegate, delegate. But the reality is sometimes you can delegate too quickly.
Hmm.
and that becomes a recipe for disaster. And that's happened to me. And then the flip side, you can delegate too late. You micromanage everything and you do it all yourself, and you don't build a team quick enough. You don't build processes around you, and you delegate too late. And I've made that mistake too. So there's a delicate balance between the two. And if you've made both mistakes, then you can spot them easier the next time around and understand that, okay, yeah, now we have this in our core competency. Now we can build out a set of procedures. We can get somebody who's better at it as a freelancer, contractor, employee, and get them on the team and delegate to them. Versus also like, oh, I don't know how to do this. It scares me. Delegate, get somebody to handle it. That usually doesn't work out. So I've after 22 years of doing it wrong and then figuring out how to do it right, I think the third time around I could do that a lot quicker. I don't think I want to do a third one. I think this is my last one. I think whatever happens with this company, I'm going to keep running it as long as I'm having fun. And we may find out when we get to that scale up phase, when we get close to 9 figures, that I may suck at it. And at that point, we'll put in a professional CEO. But yeah, I think this is my last one. The first two were just too hard.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you at all. So tell me, give me an example of delegating too soon and the issues that might come from that. There are clear issues and there's clear problems with delegating too late, especially if you're trying to scale something. If you're the proverbial mom and pop shop and you like the technical work, and in your case, you like doing the landscaping yourself, you like being out there on the job, that's perfectly fine. But if you're a business owner that wants to really scale a company, which especially a service business, a home service business, it's sometimes hard to kind of drag yourself away and replace yourself. But what is it that you can cause issues with your company if you delegate too soon?
Yeah. Wow. Where do I start? So I'll give you 2 examples. I'll give you an example of the first business. The first business was a landscaping construction company. And it was about year 6 that I realized that we were actually a sales organization, that we weren't a landscaping company. We were a sales organization, and that we needed to figure out the best way to beat the pants off of our competitors with a better sales process. And so the first thing I did is I went out and hired a bunch of sales guys. I mean, right? We need to sell some work. And then after about 3 years of just wasting a bunch of money and a bunch of time and not growing revenues, I realized I needed to be the salesperson for a while. I needed to go on the sales calls. I needed to figure out what the prospecting process looked like, lay all that out. What does the pitch process look like? What does the follow-up look like? What does the handoff to the account manager look like? I needed to do all of that, document all of that into a process, and then teach people my process rather than trying to like hire the silver bullet rock star sales guy. So that's a real common mistake of delegating too soon. Hiring your first sales guy and it's expecting like magic to happen. And so that was a mistake I made in that business. My second business, GreenPal, which is strictly a technology company, doesn't have a sales team. We market through inbound marketing, meaning like somebody is just searching for lawn mowing services. They stumble upon our property, they check it out, try it out, and use it. We don't have people like doing outbound cold calling, trying to sell lawn maintenance services. But we, as a technology company, we have to have other types of rock stars, engineers, designers, coders of all sorts. And so, when I started this business, I didn't know how to design software. I didn't know how to write code. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. And so I thought, well, let's just go hire a bunch of these guys and gals and get them to do it. And after a year and wasting $250,000 of my own money, I realized that I don't have the first idea on how any of this stuff works. I need to go back to the basics, and I need to learn how to code. I need to learn how to design software. I need to learn how to build a product. And I had to my co-founders and I had to teach ourselves how to do the 80-20 of all those things and do it ourselves for a while. And then we could delegate and build out a team of rock stars around us. It's almost impossible to delegate something effectively if you don't have like some sort of acumen around it.
That's a really interesting take, that you went back to the drawing board and you learned how to do these technical aspects of the job. And I think I'm with you to some degree regarding delegation. I think that you have to be able to understand the job, the position, the task sufficiently to manage it and to measure performance. At some level, I feel like the best entrepreneurs, they surround themselves with people that are actually better at their jobs than they are. But I think you're right. You do have to be able to understand the job enough for you to be able to manage that person, and enough for you to be able to know if they're doing well or not, and enough to be able to coach and provide additional training. I think that's spot on, 100%.
I think the gold standard is Elon Musk. You know, he can walk on the floor of Tesla and have an in-depth conversation with the guy that designed the drivetrain. He can probably go over to the team that's working on the battery life and talk to them around the alchemy around the battery and what they're doing and what innovations they're driving. Then he can get in his Tesla and go over to SpaceX and talk to any rocket scientists on the floor at a high level and talk to them about what sorts of things they're doing to drive innovation. And so it's like that dude can literally have he can get to the 90th percentile with any person of the probably 50,000 employees that he has in all 5 companies. So it's like, if I'm here, Elon Musk is here, I'm trying to get here, it's like, I'm trying to close that gap. I think that's the gold standard. It's like, yeah, you want people that are a lot better at you, that can go deeper on this stuff. But at the same time, you kind of need to be able to you need to be able to do what they're doing to a certain degree, I think. Because every time I've ever tried to delegate something that I didn't know how it worked, it's always blowing up in my face. Every time.
Yeah, I think you're right. And you need to have the respect of the people that you're delegating and managing.
Yeah.
And it's really tough to do that when you don't have at least some level of knowledge about that. So as we're, wrapping up here in the next few minutes and we're shifting gears, tell me a little bit about what is one of the common hurdles that people that are trying to start a business have to overcome, and give me an example if there's something especially with your transition from landscaping into the software world. What was maybe 1 or 2 hurdles that you had early on in making that transition that allowed you to, get to the next level and actually pull the trigger on starting your software company?
Yeah, and this is a mistake that I've made. There is this, I guess, fallacy, particularly with tech companies, that you can just get behind the laptop and code your way, type your way to success. And the reality is it just doesn't work that way. You have to get out of the building. You have to talk to your customers. You have to discover who your customers are. You have to figure out if you're solving a problem they want to pay for, and spend less time behind the laptop. And there used to be these things in the early 2010s that were really popular. I don't know if they're popular anymore. They were called hackathons. And I was never a nerdy hacker or coder, never have been. But these things were really popular. And I did one time. And the idea was you would come in on Friday afternoon, and then by Sunday night, you needed to have come up with a business idea, hacked together some crappy prototype that may have worked a little bit, and gotten 5 customers in the wild to try it and use it. And you could learn more in a weekend at one of those hackathons about starting a business from scratch than you could probably learn in 4 years of business school. It was amazing because it taught you to cut out all the crap and focus on one thing. How do I get customers to use something that I'm building, and how do I solve their problem? And as a new founder, we're just wired to want to do everything but that. We want to look at the color scheme and the tone of the brand, and what does the homepage look like, and what's the mock-ups look like, and who we should write, we should get our Instagram going, and everything but like, just get 10 customers to put a credit card number down. Let's see if we can solve a problem for them. So it's really cut out all of the crap between you and a dozen customers. Go get a dozen customers and see if you can keep them, and then focus on all the other stuff. And I've made a bunch of mistakes around that. And I still see it, even to this day, with everything that's been put out there around like the lean startup movement and everything. It's a mistake that every founder makes.
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned before, entrepreneurs, we get distracted with certain things, and it's very hard for startup entrepreneurs to know exactly what they should be working on at any given moment. Obviously, making sure that there's cash to make sure the business stays afloat is at the top of that list, right? So
Yeah.
one reason why businesses fail is because of a lack of cash flow. They don't have the money to keep the doors open. And, for the startup entrepreneurs that are listening, make sure that you're taking care of that first, especially early on when you haven't delegated other people to take care of that. And then as time goes on, as you're patient with that process, you can get more into the projects that are more appealing, more attractive, more sexy to you than, getting a customer with a credit card on file. So 100%.
Exactly.
Well, this has been great, Bryan. I appreciate your time. Where can people find out more about you and what you guys are accomplishing at GreenPal?
Yeah. Anybody that's listening to this doesn't want to mow your own grass, just download GreenPal in the App Store or Play Store. Anybody wants to hit me up, Instagram's the best place to get me, Bryan M. Clayton. Just drop me a DM there.
Love it. Well, this has been fantastic. Thanks so much, Bryan. Looking forward to connecting with you in the future, and nothing but success. All right.
Awesome, Allan. Thank you so much.
If you've enjoyed today's podcast, please leave us a rating. And for daily inspiration and business tips, follow Allan on Instagram. Until next time, remember, we build the future one entrepreneur at a time.